Okay. Oh, we live. You hit it? You did it?
Did I do it?
I think you did it.
Oh, my bad.
No, you good. I didn't do it.
You know
Live.
what? I did. I thought it was an option for me to go to stream through my social media too, but it was just
You are. You have that option. Is
okay.
it streaming to yours?
Not right now. It's not. I think it would just allow me to go live
Okay.
from your spot. But I think I would have to go in the settings. I'm seeing now. We've been meaning to tamper with this on an off day, but we never got around to it.
Yeah, you just gotta go and do it.
But look, we in the house now, man.
We in the building. What's good?
What's going on, man? Yeah, man. I've been a little under the weather, man.
For real? What's
Yeah,
going on?
man. No, I mean physically under the weather, man. I feel got a little sick over the weekend, man. Partying with my daughter and stuff, man. Being around those kids, then one of them got me a little sick. But I'm staying hydrated. But I can't. I'm not feeling nowhere near as under the weather as you, Mr. Murphy. What's going on? You doing all right, man? How you feeling?
I'm glad I took the day off work. That's what I say.
You took the day off.
I took the day off when I found out we were going.
Oh, true that, true that, true that. You know, it was going to either be a celebration or you're going to be in mourning and needed that time.
Correct.
All
That's what
right.
I
Well,
yeah.
well, look. Well, today is a special edition. You know, we usually here on Wednesdays, but welcome today. Today is the Keith Murphy therapy session. We're here in these hard times for Mr. Keith Murphy to bring him through. You know, this tragic event. Man, talk to me, man. Look, I want you to get it all out, Keith. I want you need this venting session. You know what I mean? And this is a safe space, Keith. So we want you to be all right. So, man, talk to me.
Man, what a season, first off. Ended at the destination, didn't land the aircraft. Um, man, watching that game, I felt every emotion a sports fan can possibly feel. Oh, I was sick at the end, of course, but I mean, we just squandered opportunities, man. I don't want to put blame at one person because I think a lot of things went their way. Uh, this one hurts because this is the third time I feel like we had the better team in the last 10 years. And you didn't get it done any of them. I thought we were a little better than Baltimore, Ray Lewis last year, and I thought we had a better team than the Chiefs 4 years ago. So that's cool. So it says some destinations won't get comments. All right. But this one's just hard because I felt like we controlled the majority of that game. Just watching it. Felt we started off dominating, moving right down the field. And the funny thing is, I felt our two best players hurt us the most in the first quarter. McCaffrey fumbling, and then Trent with a false start, and then a holding call.
Back to back.
Back to back, stalled out both of our. And so I felt we physically dominated them in the trenches. We were getting sacks, and to only have like a 3-0 score, I was like, that's not good. Because it felt like we should have been up 2 scores. If you were just watching the game, you didn't know the score, that's what it would feel like.
It seemed like
unfortunately, that's just not.
it seemed like y'all would have some momentum, and then you would stop yourself short. I mean, let's be honest. I tell you this, Keith. You called this last week, probably your best prediction. It was definitely a defensive game, especially in the first half.
Yes, I said it wouldn't get up to 30, didn't I?
You did.
I think my prediction was 24-21 Niners, so it ended up being 25-22.
Right there, man. You was spot. That's what I was thinking about. That. I was like, yo, Keith was almost spot on with his prediction. Of course, you wanted it to go the other way.
Right.
But it was a battle of defenses, man. Dude, the Chiefs offense was horrible in the first half.
Chiefs offense is not good. I mean, it was not good. It wasn't good till I'm going to tell you when it became good when we get to that part of my little diatribe. But back to that CMC and Trent. And you know what's crazy? What's crazy to me? The person I was worried about the most seemed the most composed. Brock Purdy played a clean game. He didn't play great, but against that Kansas City defense, he played well. You know what I'm saying? And so I am not I was more like Trent seemed to have nerves. McCaffrey, you fumbling. Like Greenlaw, you pop your Achilles because you're too hyped to come in the game. Like
That was insane.
that's the kind of stuff that happens to us. You know, big games, it's always weird shit. Okay. Last year against Philly, quarterback gets knocked out in the first quarter. Nick Bosa gets hurt on the sideline during a special teams play. Drake Greenlaw pops his Achilles last night. It seemed like everybody started, like Kittle got hurt. I know he had been hurt throughout the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. And yeah, so Trent, then Greenlaw goes down and Debo went down fairly early too with a hamstring. And so it's just like it's something about us in these big games where it's just like a lot of weird stuff happens. And I'm gonna be honest, more than like Kittle and Debo, because I thought your man stepped up huge in this game, Jawan Jennings. Somebody's gonna pay him. He had a huge game. And I just thought that the Greenlaw injury was the biggest because I thought Kelsey started getting loose after he went out.
What quarter did he go out? Was that
I want to
the
say
second quarter?
I think so.
Yeah, both tight ends were pretty much contained in that first half. I mean, Kittles was contained the entire game.
Right.
Kittles had one big play, was that first down play. I think it was in the fourth quarter I think it was on y'all's last drive in the fourth quarter. Other than that, man, he was pretty much held without a catch for most of the game.
Right.
But no, I think that was huge. I mean, you guys have definitely had your fair share of bad luck when it comes to injuries, especially in the big game scenarios like this. Let me ask you this, because I don't want to say too much. I want this to be mostly you to have the mic on this one. But do you feel like this was y'all's best chance? This is y'all's best chance this year, or do you think that you're still in position to get it done?
I think we're still in position to get it done, but always it's been 4 years since we got there before. So you can't take these things for granted. And so do I think we can get back? Absolutely. But would I sit here and guarantee that we're going to get back? No. I mean, I think we'll have talent next year. I want to see what they do in the offseason because now that at the time of the year that Greenlaw tore his ACL, he might not play next year.
That's you. That
ACL. I mean, his Achilles.
Yep.
Yeah, and so he might not play next year. So now it's like, okay, at least we know that now. So maybe in the draft we go in to get linebackers. Or the good thing about having Purdy on this rookie contract is we're gonna have some salary cap money to play with, to hopefully restock the team. We need to do some stuff with the offensive line too. I thought that was a major weakness that showed up last night. And just going through the game, I felt really good when it started because all the criticism of Chase Young and the effort of our defense, and I felt like they played hard. You know what I mean? Controlled the line of scrimmage for the first half, and I just don't think we capitalized. We didn't capitalize on his interception in the third quarter, which was big. We didn't capitalize on, a lot of things, but the one thing I realized is while he's on this rookie contract, he'll be our quarterback. Played better than Lamar Jackson played against this Kansas City defense. Played better than Tua. Allen, I would say Allen played a little bit better, but with the breakdown of protections and all that, I thought we missed a couple opportunities to score touchdowns. Leaving Chris Jones unblocked, that's just that's inexcusable at that point in the game. But yeah, I left it feeling like, man, the one that was the most composed was the second year quarterback.
I think I mean, he played as well as you could expect. I didn't think he didn't look like the nerves got to him in the game. The moment got to him.
Correct.
He was decent. I saw a post. Somebody posted that it's funny that the so-called game manager played a better game in the Super Bowl than the person who called him out as a game
I saw that. I
manager.
saw that.
I thought that was pretty. Yeah, that was pretty slick. But I will say, a big blow to you guys on offense, especially, was your third down efficiency. Y'all were horrible on third down.
Well, I kind of have an explanation for that. We were not. If you look at we weren't in third and manageable a whole lot. It's a
Right.
lot of 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 12s, a lot of low opportunity chances to pick up. Which Spags, he did a great job because he blitzed a lot on first down. And usually we're used to getting 3 to 4 yards on first down, and our third downs is usually
Hmm.
3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, which are more manageable. Just the way he blitzed and did certain things. I mean, they invested in that a lot of draft capital in a young defense, and a lot of those guys have hit. I don't think they're. I don't think that they are names yet, but they will be. I mean, because they're Super Bowl champions. But
Hmm.
I just thought if you're gonna ask me the one moment in the game, if it came down to one play, it was that muff punt when the punt hit the guy's leg.
That was tough.
I thought we had them bottled up. They're putting back to us, and then we muff it, and then they score a touchdown. And that, to me, they were rolling after that.
Yeah, that was huge, man.
Um,
I mean, tell of the game turnovers. I mean, y'all had two fumbles lost. I think for the whole game to their one. Um, but yeah, I brought up that third down efficiency because y'all were 3 for 12 on third down to
correct.
their I think it was 9 for 18.
19, 9 for 19. They
Yeah,
were.
9 for 19.
But
Yeah.
they were third and manageable a lot more than we were. And you got to think about it. I would bet quite a few of those came on that last drive or last two
Mhm.
drives. I bet you they weren't very good on third down throughout the game.
My eye test would say no. Like,
Right,
like I said, it was they didn't really heat up until you guys pretty much gave them some momentum in that second half, and they built off of it. You know what I mean? They
right.
bounced off of it, and then when it went into overtime, I'm not gonna lie to you, Keith. I think a lot of them, a lot of America was looking like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna go well for San Francisco.
Uh,
I
I
mean,
didn't like it just being I felt like we played to have a cushion, 7 to 10 point lead in the fourth quarter.
mhm,
That's the level I felt like we played. And
cushion was never there.
it never came into fruition. So when you give guys like Mahomes and them opportunity, they're gonna kick the door in. And so that's what he did. And that's why he is who he is. Mhm.
Oh, he is who he is, man. Thank you, people, for joining in. We're right here at Keith's therapy session Monday. You know what I mean. Feel free to say some kind words in the comments to our brother Keith Murphy, who's mourning, a Super Bowl loss at this time. But look, let me ask you about this, man. We're talking about overtime, so there's been a lot of stuff going on as far as like San Francisco teams or whatever. They didn't know, or they didn't have knowledge of the overtime rules, or they weren't prepped properly by
Right.
Coach Shanahan for the overtime. What do you think about that, man? And how is it that they don't know the overtime rules that were made 2 years ago?
Well, they're first off, they're not overtime rules. They're playoff overtime
Well,
rules.
playoff overtime. That's what I was
Yeah.
saying.
So
Yeah.
they're different in, you know, I don't really look at it like nothing crazy. I mean, you would like him to know it, but I know there's players that don't know a lot of rules. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like it affected the game. Um, and it just shows that, Kansas City might just be a little bit more buttoned up than San Francisco. There's levels, you know? And so Andy Reid and them being prepped on that. I think Shanahan tried to outthink himself and tried to make himself the smartest man in the room. Talking about the analytics, and to me, it didn't make a lot of sense. to do that. Let's see. Shanahan did what he does in the Super Bowl, coach a good first half and piss away a lead in the second. Did it against New England and Chiefs twice. I don't really look at it like that, team. What I would say about this one is Shanahan didn't miss the extra point and Shanahan did not muff the punt. Yes, the coach has to be called to the table, but the players gotta make the coach right sometimes. And I didn't think coaching had anything to do with either of those plays. You got to make the extra point, and you got to control punts, special teams. And special teams has been a San Francisco issue for a couple of years.
Well,
Yes, he
well,
did not. I caught that because I don't feel like McCole Hardman knew they won. Otherwise, he'd have been celebrating as soon as he caught it. And I'm gonna be honest, I kind of forgot. I was like, okay, we're gonna get the ball back for like 3 seconds.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Then I was like, oh no, it's over. You know what I mean? And so when people say it's not. Look, if they said we didn't know where we're supposed to be blocking or something on the field, I would be a little bit more upset. Not knowing a rule that was here nor there.
Yeah, Tony Romo tried to explain it right there towards the end. I think it confused a
Yeah.
few people.
So
But
yeah,
no,
when it comes to that, he said he hates to run. He should have stayed more dedicated. The only thing I would say is that he should have run more with Elijah Mitchell. I thought McCaffrey got tired. But one thing that they were dialing up, they did a lot of good things against our run to put us in a lot of pass situations. And if you watch the 49ers all year, we like to pass on first down because it's a down where everybody thinks we're going to run. And so I can see your points on that, Greg Dunn, but I also because to your point, if you don't run it, then it puts you in a point to kind of where you have to pass it on all 3 downs, and that's kind of what happened. I don't know if Debo was hurt. I would have liked to see more jet sweeps, more end arounds, and things like that we didn't really do.
I think to go back to Dog's original bigger point about Shanahan, you and I talked about this though, man. You know about what happens if you all lose. You know what that narrative was going to be. You know what I
Correct.
mean? We could break down different reasons why. We can go back to the last Super Bowl game he lost and break down the reasons why. But it's still not going to change the facts, or the narrative that's out there about what happens when Shanahan is in the Super Bowl. And it started with that, as it was pointed out, it started with that him as a coordinator with Atlanta in that New England game. And
Right.
it seems like he's like the ultimate runner-up right now. And you made the point about Andy Reid that I like. If you want to run that back.
Oh yeah, I said right now his career is mirroring Andy Reid's in Philly. I would say a little bit. I mean, because we've been in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah,
Andy Reid went to one in
he was on one Super Bowl. Yep.
like in 13 years. So I would say it's trending better. And that narrative's going to be around until he gets it done. That's just what it is. I think that am I confident he'll get it done as a 49er fan? I actually am. I'm more confident now than I was after 19 because I didn't know if now he's shown about 7 years of excellence. Just got to win the big one. And somebody was like, can't really, can't say the Cap curse because Cap was in the Super Bowl. He lost one for us too. So he's a loser just like Cap is a loser just like Brock Purdy and Jimmy G right now. So Cap, it would be a curse, I guess, if he won, but Cap couldn't win. He didn't win the Super Bowl. What's up, coach? This is my old coach, man. Coin toss decision to play defense first. I think it is very questionable. Shanahan gave his logic on it, but I thought that if that's your logic, I can't fight it. But I would rather give our rookie or second-year quarterback 4 downs to play with because now Mahomes knows I have 4 downs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they got into a 4th and 1 on their 30, which is a normal punting situation. And they had to go for it because that was the ball game, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would rather know what you did. I'd rather see them kick a field goal or us kick a touchdown or them get a touch and then be able to strategize based off that. So, no, with the new overtime rules, I did not like taking the ball. But I guess he wanted to dictate terms. So I don't know his logic on that.
It seems like he wasn't. I mean, just as in the dark as the team seemed to be with the OT, I don't think he was thinking about it much either. What do you think about that? Do you think he really thought that much into it as far as like what the playoff overtime rules were when he
To
made
your
that decision?
to your point, he could be doing what the young people say, you capping.
Right.
You really didn't have a strategy. You thought you score a touchdown, you win.
Right.
It could have
Exactly.
been
That's what
that,
I'm
you know.
saying.
Hey, and maybe he tried to save face after the game. I mean, because let's be honest, how many playoff overtime games have there been since they changed the rule?
It hasn't there. I don't think there have been any.
Was this the first one?
I want to with the current format. I think this is the first one.
So the last overtime game we had was Josh Allen and
Yep.
Mahomes.
Yep. We had to do some research just to make sure, but
Right,
I'm pretty sure there wasn't another one.
right.
Yeah, I think somebody else said. Yeah, I think he said that's the first. Yeah, yeah. So I don't recall there being one since the rule was put into place. So yeah, there was an experiment in the Super Bowl, I guess. But
Yes. And so you should go over every detail in a game like this. But if you're like really into your game plan and all that, you probably I'm not gonna say you're not thinking overtime, but how I don't know. Put it like this, you should be. You should think everything, every
mhm,
situation, you know. But yeah, the biggest play to me was the muff punt. I also thought, to Greg Dunn's point, the 3 and outs were killer. Like every time we could have had an opportunity to like extend the lead, we didn't do it. And so you leave a team like that hanging around, that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna come. And
yeah.
so
It's interesting, man. That y'all. I mean, y'all led the. I think y'all led in time of possession. San Francisco did by about a couple of minutes. Um, but to a point someone made previously, y'all abandoned the run to it. When your best player on the field was getting off and he was
right,
successful.
right,
So it kind of reminds me of what Detroit did when they played y'all when they abandoned the run in the second half.
right,
And let y'all get back into it when it was working the first half. But
right.
I mean, I think there's plenty of
But I
blame.
can't really say what was working or not too, because what I can say is, I mean, because think about it, one of the touchdowns was a trick play,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, no, yeah. You talking about the Jawan? You talking about the Jawan?
Well, no, but Coach Anderson, the rule for the playoffs is different than the regular season rule. If you get the ball and score a touchdown in the regular season, it's still that's ball game.
Hmm.
The playoff rule, everybody gets a turn with the ball. That's not during the regular season. And it makes sense why they don't do it during the regular season like that. You don't want injuries or these guys playing a lot of extended overtime games. But in the playoffs, you got to have a winner.
Yeah, and no, and to Greg Dunn's point, yo, I agree. I don't see the point in there being a clock with the rule formatted the way it is. It makes the clock pointless.
What would they do if it ended? Would they redo a coin flip?
I
That
mean,
might be.
I guess so. I mean,
But to that point, it wouldn't. To his point, it wouldn't make sense. You got to keep going. You know what I
right.
mean? Um. So
But yeah, I mean that's where we are. He said that trick play technically shouldn't have counted. It should have been called illegal man downfield.
talking about alignment, probably.
A lineman didn't report.
I thought there was a hold too.
Yeah, you think if y'all would have won that Jawan Jennings is the MVP?
Yes, absolutely. He played. I mean, he's a big game player. He's going to get a check. He's not
Mhm.
like going to be no number one or number two, but he's the type of player that you want on your team. And he's our most physical receiver when it comes to blocking, all that. Like,
You think he's the most physical?
absolutely.
Hmm.
He
More so,
plays the most physical.
more so than Debo.
Man, Debo don't want to block like that. Debo, he
He's
doesn't.
he's physical with the ball.
He's physical with the ball,
Yeah.
but if we want to go block people and get into skirmishes, that's Jennings. That's Jennings' identity. And he was another one we got in the 7th round. He's 7th round draft pick.
Hmm. Not you think? I mean, you think if y'all were to lose, let's say y'all lost Ayuk in that offseason.
We won't lose him this offseason. He is next year is his 5th-year option. He's just extension eligible after this year.
Okay, so it's not an opt out year for him. He can actually okay
He'd be a free agent after next year.
after next year. Okay.
But we can sign him to an extension this year.
Got you. I got Sean Miller clocked in. If the clock runs out, it just starts a new OT after it. Yeah, with a new coin flip. Yeah, so
Well, him and Greg Dunn are going back and forth. One saying one thing, one saying the other. We have to do research.
yeah, we had to look it up. But no, man, I think I mean that was the story of the game. And then, hey, I mean, what's your grade on Patrick Mahomes, man? Like what
B
where
plus, B plus.
yeah.
He didn't play a game. I mean, we had him under control most of I would say until the muff punt.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we didn't have him under control. I mean, he took over the game. That's why you can't leave stuff like that to chance. And so, if people ask me the biggest thing, yeah, missing that extra point too, it's between those two because that would force them to have to go for a touchdown at the end of the game versus kick a field goal to tie it. But damn, his ass probably would have just went and won the game in regulation.
He is a guy you just can't leave. You can't leave those clutch moments open for him. That's what it was. You like you pointed out earlier. It seemed like there should have been a cushion the whole time you're watching in the first half. It's like, okay, when are we stretching this out? The
Right.
momentum was there, and then it would get halted by some mistake. You know what I mean? So, but once you get into overtime, then it's like, okay, this is the moment. These moments are what make him great.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I will say this to your point about him being held in check. Both defensive coordinators coached a hell of a game.
They did.
They were both exceptional because I mean we saw a defensive game for the most part all the way until pretty much the fourth quarter. When you think about it,
Final score regulation was 19-19, so that is a
right?
defensive game. So,
Absolutely.
Sometimes you can lose games in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that also. I thought that McCaffrey fumble was just big, just because of where we were at with the ball too. We were in field goal range.
Yeah, y'all were about to.
I mean, luckily we stopped them and caused a fumble on their end, so it kind of canceled out. But they capitalized on that muff punt. We didn't capitalize on either one of their turnovers.
Right. Yeah, they didn't capitalize on that one, but they definitely capitalized on the punt.
They did.
That punt was massive, and it was highly unfortunate too, because it was like it wasn't really like so much negligence as just like a freak accident.
Well, it's not a freak. You got to pay attention to kicker when he says you get out the way.
You do.
But I also didn't like the return man trying to scoop it up instead of diving.
He should have dived on it. Yeah, he definitely should have dived on it because he had the best vantage point of where the ball was.
That's right.
Hence he was the one calling for everybody to clear out of the way. So yeah, he definitely should have dived on it and saved the field as opposed save the possession as opposed to trying to save the field, which is what he was trying to do.
Yeah, at that point the field position's already gone.
Right.
Just keep getting the ball.
Keep the possession, man. But yeah, it was a tough game, man. I actually, if you recall, I predicted 49ers to win this one too because I thought they had the more talented team. I still think they had the more talented team.
I don't think that is really a question. I mean, how the game played out, like I said, it's hard just because we made the game close, and when you do that with Mahomes, he's going to make you pay. And so when the game gets close like that, the talent gap doesn't really matter. It's like now who's going to make a play, and
Right.
so if you gotta say is Purdy going to make a play or Pat Mahomes, let's say Pat Mahomes. And
Right.
so when that game is going into overtime, I'm not feeling good about it.
No, he lives for the moment, man. You know what I mean? You can't give him those moments, man. You can't give Steph Curry, the ball tied with the game tied up with 22 seconds left on the clock.
Right.
You know what I mean? He just lives for the moment. But you can and yeah, I see Greg Dunn brought up about Kittle. Yeah, Kittle was a non-factor. I feel like you pointed out, Keith, until Greenlaw was out of there, even Kelsey was pretty much held in check for the most part. But yeah, Kittle definitely struggled, man. What is your take on that? Do you think he was taken out of the game more so, or do you think that he just wasn't creating separation? Why wasn't he utilized as much as you're used to seeing him?
I think
You
it
know,
was a combination of a lot of things. He's been injured ever since the NFC Championship. He didn't practice at all the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl.
mm,
And I think he ended up going out of the game last night. And Kansas City got
he
to
hurt
give
his
him,
shoulder.
you got to give him credit. They game planned him up, and they have good man corners. Like McDuffie had Debo in his pocket.
He did.
Like I thought Ayuk got free on some routes, but Purdy, like if pressure came or whatever, they weren't able to capitalize on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, I think their game plan was just solid. Like I'm not going to take nothing away from Kansas City or make no excuses. They Spags is one of the best defensive minds in football, and that's why they're so successful.
4-time Super Bowl champ.
And
Bags. How did you feel about your defense overall?
I have no beef with the defense at all. None. Like zero. I thought defense played good. I don't think any teams can expect to like hold Mahomes to fourth quarters.
No doubt.
For 4 whole quarters. And we held him about 3.5.
No doubt. Yeah, I think I got some technical issues going on here.
I didn't see why Shanny didn't run the clock in the fourth, run the ball. I agree. I totally agree with that. I wanted them to not give Mahomes the ball back. So I just think that Shanahan, I don't know. I think he gets tight in those situations. You still there? Let's look at some more comments. Thought Josh Williams for KC made huge plays in special teams. I mean, I think their special teams was a difference in the game too. They blocked the extra point. I'm sorry. Blocked the extra point and recovered a muffed punt. And those 2 plays alone gave them 7 and took away 1 from us. So, all in all, it was a good game to watch. It was a better game to watch, I guess, if you're a Kansas City fan. Um, from a Niner perspective, I was stressing all night, but it was a fun watch. I think this is a team that can get back next year. I see the NFC getting stronger with teams like Green Bay and Detroit, but I think there's a chance that we can. He would have, but KC got the big stop on third down on that last drive. With 153 to go. Down on that last drive. With 153 to go. That was big. I mean, for them to get the ball back, but I felt like they had plays saved for the game, and Andy Reid was more timely in using those plays, whereas Shanahan used that big trick play in the first half. But I don't feel like Andy. He had the play he beat us with. That's the play that he beat Philly with last year. It's the same play.
You talking about
The McCole Hardman touchdown.
McCole Hardman touchdown? Yeah, I peeped that.
So it's like where are your go-to? Like Shanahan, this 3rd and 4, we got to have it. What exotic what go-to play you have? That's my frustration. Like I thought Shanahan shot all his bullets in the first half and didn't have much left in the second.
Yeah, no, it was. It seemed like a lot of adjustments were made. More adjustments were made on the other side. You know what I mean?
Right.
Neutralize the key. The skill positions. But I mean, it all comes down. I mean, like you said, regulation still ended. It was 1919. Nobody went crazy. You know what I mean? So it really just all came down to the wire. It was just a defensive game. That really just came down to that decision in overtime was actually, was bigger than. I mean, I think that's why people are making such a big deal about it, because that decision to take the ball first without having knowledge of how the flow of the overtime worked, it really gave an advantage to Kansas City.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's really what it came down to. It was just who had the ball at the right time. So I mean, overall, man, good game, good, great Super Bowl. Even the halftime show.
Yeah, that was cool.
What
do you want to do? Team outlook?
Yeah, man. What's our outlook looking forward, man? What we got? How do you feel about the team? I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but what's your outlook on San Francisco moving forward, man? Are we back right here next year? Or do you feel like it's going to be a little bit tougher? The NFC was for the picking more so this year.
I think that we're about to get into that, Keith.
My guy.
What key pieces needed for San Fran next year? I would like to upgrade our offensive line. Now that we know Greenlaw has an Achilles, you probably need something at linebacker. Trent Williams already said he's coming back. He said that, I think, after the NFC Championship, said he's definitely coming back. And so I would like to upgrade the right side of our offensive line. I felt like when we have a must drop back pass situations, we can't block. I mean, that's just lucky his scheme is more run based and a lot of misdirection. It's able to kind of help the offensive line, but we actually need more strong offensive linemen.
Is that a need to address early in the draft?
I would think so. Yes. Now, also, like I said, with Greenlaw, got to look at linebacker. But the team as constructed is everybody's pretty much coming back. We have a lot of free agents next year. So it'll be interesting to see how we retool our roster. We got a first-round pick back this year, finally, after 3 years with no first-round pick. So I think that's hurt our depth a lot by not having first-round picks.
Yeah.
And so one thing that, to your point, that's been able to save us is the amount of compensatory picks that we've gotten from minority hires getting away. And so
I will say this. I mean, I think you're going to be better off next season, going into next season than you will be the season after that, because then you got to pay Brock Purdy, after that.
We don't necessarily have to.
Well, I mean, are you going to keep him? I mean, could you franchise tag him after that season? Is that what would happen?
Yeah, you don't want to franchise tag him because that hurts the cap.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Pay him. You got to, if you franchise somebody, you got to pay them top 3 or top 5 average, something crazy.
Exactly.
Nah, but I like them to do what Purdy, even what they did with Jimmy G. Like, hey, continue to draft quarterbacks. keep the pressure on Purdy to
Mhm.
improve. Like Dunn says, Purdy has to take the next step. And this will be the first offseason he can work. Remember, last offseason he spent recovering.
Yeah.
And so maybe get his arm a little stronger. But this is the first offseason where he can go in and have a plan and actually work versus the whole offseason last year was strictly rehab.
Mhm. He has some things to learn still. I could see, just as a quarterback. There was one time I think I saw him. He called timeout instead of adjusting his protection. You know,
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the word on the street is Shanahan doesn't even like let you set your own protections.
oh really?
Yeah, like and so maybe to your point, that's something he has to learn going forward.
Yeah.
But he calls the plays that Shanahan calls. He's not audibling and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's where you get put into that game manager space.
Mhm.
Not from a skill set standpoint, but if you're playing in a system where you don't have a lot of control to, you know what I mean, to adjust, then you can't change your own protection. Now he burned the time out the day that you all probably, it ended up not being costly, but
Right.
a timeout that you might have needed just because he didn't have the ability or he didn't have, the keys to the offense, so to speak, in order to be able to change that protection. Or because you question, did he even see that he needed to change it, or did he see where he needed to change it?
Well,
Or
there's always going to be good questions for a second year quarterback.
right.
So uh, and so yes, he has to take the next step. I like the way Greg Dunn put it. Like had a Pro Bowl year, had a very good year. I mean, what more could you ask? If you'd have told me before last night, Purdy would have a Pro Bowl season and we would be in the Super Bowl, I would take that back in August. So people nitpicking him like he's a 10-year vet, or like he's Dak. I hate to say it like that, but you know, second year quarterbacks.
It's still a great story.
Right. It is. And I to your point, I don't know, can we get back? I do think we'll be favored to get back. I think right now we're the betting favorite in Vegas, even though Kansas City has won the last two Super Bowls.
But you know what? But you know what's scary about that? Kansas City didn't have a very good season. You
They
know what
did.
I mean? By their
They
standards,
are not gonna have the same team next year on offense.
right? Exactly. You know what I mean? And they made history, man. I mean, dude, they played all their games on the road. They beat every. They beat
They
all
play
of
at
the,
home. Their first game was at home against Miami.
what they. I'm saying they beat the best teams in the NFL in road games. You know, So, but I mean, even with the Super Bowl, I mean, you heard the noise in there, man. That was a San Francisco crowd, bro.
Right,
You,
right,
you know
right.
what I mean? You knew how many San Francisco fans are in the building whenever your fullback gets the ball.
That's right. That's right. Jules.
Yeah, when you start hearing that noise, you're just like, oh man, it's a whole lot of Niners gang up in here. So I mean, you can't take what Patrick Mahomes has done for granted. They led the NFL in drop passes and won the damn Super Bowl. You know what I mean? That's insane. I don't even know if that's ever happened before.
That's something I would need to look up. But what he does and what he is going to be, at least as the NFC teams, we get to participate in the Super Bowl. If you're in the AFC, think about the last 20 years going from Brady to Mahomes.
Hmm.
The only other quarterbacks that have won is like Roethlisberger, Flacco. I mean, who else in the AFC has won the Super Bowl? Brady?
Yeah.
I mean, besides Brady and Mahomes.
I mean, if you're going more recently, you know what I mean, within the last decade or so, what Mahomes, Brady, Matthew Stafford,
Well,
and
Stafford's NFC. I'm talking AFC.
we're talking about just AFC. Oh yeah, 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 no doubt. It's yeah, Mahomes,
Joe Flacco.
Flacco, Brady, of course, Big Ben,
Big Ben ain't won since 2010, though, I think, right?
2010. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane. Because Flacco's was in what, 2012?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Javon. Hey, man, tell him, man. Look, he ain't had to bring Dak into this. I'm trying to show him grace today. You know what I mean? I'm trying not to give him the trolling cowboy treatment. You know what I mean? He had to throw Dak in there.
I'm just saying he's a second-year quarterback, not like what year is Dak now? 7, 8?
Man, who knows? This ain't about Dak. Look, when we get away from the Super Bowl talk and get into the off-season, free agencies, and all that good stuff, we can start talking about Dak again. You know what I mean? I still have Dak PTSD right now.
You said Dak PTSD?
Yeah, man.
First
round.
The last AFC team to win that wasn't Mahomes or Brady was Peyton Manning.
When he was with the Broncos.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, yes, before that was Baltimore.
And that year he was with the Broncos. He wasn't good that year. He was kind of the year that he won the Super Bowl. He was good the year they made it to the Super Bowl and lost to the Seahawks. But he pretty much got carried to the Super Bowl that year that they won.
He got benched that year.
Yeah. For what's the big tall dude? What's his name? The 6'8", 6'9" guy. I can't even remember his name right now.
I can't either.
You know what I'm talking about, right? But
chat might can help us out with that.
Right. But yeah, he was not good that year.
Brock Osweiler.
Osweiler, that's who it was, man. Yeah, I mean that was when our guy was MVP on defense, linebacker. I can't get anybody's name out right now.
Von Miller.
Von Miller, there you go.
Yeah. Purdy missed that touchdown in OT. Let's go over that play. Which down was that? Was that the Debo one?
I think so. I think he's talking about Is that the one where he missed Debo on that one and threw it over?
I think he's talking about the 3rd and 4 when Ayuk was wide open and Jennings was wide open. And tell me if that's the one you're talking about.
Who did he throw it to?
He threw it away. That's the one where Chris Jones came in.
Yeah.
So
if that's the one he's talking about, then I mean, dude, you got Chris Jones in your face. Really much you can do.
He missed a couple of throws. Look, if you'd have told me that was the type of game he would play before we played, I would take that.
Right.
And so, yeah, he's talking about the goal line play. Yeah, I mean, I thought the protection broke down.
It did.
So, look, this is one of our 49er fans I was talking about.
Oh, man. Hey, look. All right, man. All right. 49ers fans, look, relax. Relax. Let me tell you, these coaches aren't growing on trees. Coaches like Kyle aren't growing on trees. If that man gets fired, man, like, that might be somebody might fire their coach just to get Kyle, to be honest.
When did Andy Reid get hired in Kansas City?
When? What year was that? Was that 2013? 13? Yeah.
He didn't win it till 2020. It took him 7 or 8 years. So they should have fired Andy Reid by your logic, Daryl?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, there's some Kyle deserves the smoke that he's getting. You know what I mean? I mean, he has shown himself to be a glorified runner-up, and someone who loses leads in the Super Bowl. But
he said hindsight is 2020. Of course they should. I mean, think about it. If you're looking at it like that, Daryl, how many years was Andy Reid head coach in Philly? 13? So he went 13 years and then he went 6. It took him 19 or 20 years to win his first Super Bowl as a head coach. Kyle is in year 7. But since you're on it, fire Kyle and hire who?
To play devil's advocate, though, Keith.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is Kyle, is he Andy Reid? Do you
that
think
means he gonna have to leave us and go somewhere else to win? I hope not.
you know what I'm saying? Because that's what happened. you know. But I mean, I don't. We don't. Do we know? Is he an I want to say. I was going to say caliber of Andy Reid. Do you think he's on that level as a play caller, or do you think he's just someone who tries to be innovative, sometime to his own detriment?
Um, I don't think anybody's on Andy Reid's level right now. I would have said maybe the Andy Reid before he won, but I mean, especially since he's got Mahomes. I think Kyle's still a top 5 coach in football.
I like
Um,
he said. I like what he said. I'll just say this: the smartest guy in the room syndrome almost never works. Not in business, not in sports, not in the military, etc. That's who Kyle is summed up in a nutshell. That I mean, and to the point I was saying, it's like, is he? Do you see him on that Andy Reid level? I mean, because this is the knock that I get on Kyle. This is what people are saying about him. Sometimes he's trying to be overly. He might be a little too innovative at times, to the point where it's costly for him in the big game. You know what I mean? He'll dominate through the season.
well,
He'll put up points. But what do you think about that?
I think Andy Reid had everything that you're talking about with Kyle. That's exactly what they used to say about Andy.
Right.
It's amazing when you start getting this type of stuff right when you get Pat Mahomes, and so we'll see if Purdy is that. I mean, I don't think he'll ever be Mahomes, but if maybe we get to a Super Bowl one year and we have a quarterback, I don't think Kyle's ever had a quarterback event. He has 2 or 3 Super Bowl losses. Is 2 to Mahomes and 1 to Brady. I mean, come on.
He shouldn't have lost the one to Brady.
No, he shouldn't. But that's not.
That was
I tell
absurd.
people that he's an assistant coach. I know he's calling plays and all that. That's on Dan Quinn. Like, I don't want to hear about any mistakes, Wilkes, from last night. Kyle, that's on you.
Yeah. And Sean, he's not just being compared for his time as a head coach. He's being compared, with, from his time as a coordinator too. Because, to Keith's point, you just made, a lot of people hold him responsible, for that Atlanta debacle. Even though I agree, I think it's equally, I think Dan Quinn should definitely be held accountable. You know what I mean? But they're going to go off of the offensive strategy being the reason that they lost that game.
And so we can't be talking out of both sides of our neck.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy can't be mid and Kyle be ass. If Brock Purdy is mid, what kind of coach do you think that makes Kyle?
Yeah, no, I don't think he's mid.
Do you like? Let me ask you this, Greg.
I'm posing the question.
Do you like McVay better than Shanahan?
I mean, McVay got a chip, bro.
He does. But we see the Rams every year, and what usually happens?
Don't matter. He got a chip.
I'm not saying it matters if you got a chip, but you've played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever played against a state champion?
Yes.
Were you better than anybody on that team? And every time you saw them, maybe you beat them.
Yes.
That means you're better. You just maybe didn't accomplish what they've accomplished, but we get to see McVay and Shanahan go head to head twice a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that usually end up?
Kyle usually gets the better of him.
Not usually.
I mean, he does. But what was their the year that Sean McVay had the Super Bowl squad? What was the
2021?
Huh?
They won the division that year. That's the last time somebody else won the division.
Well, I'm saying, what was their record against Kyle Shanahan that season?
Oh, we still swept them that year too.
I swept them in that season too?
Yes. Only season we haven't swept them recently is this year, and this year we didn't play any of our starters. That week 18 game or whatever it was. So that's his only win against Kyle Shanahan. But they did beat us. To your point, he beat us in the NFC Championship. So I think it's up to debate. I can't say give him that roster because Kyle really helped build this roster. Why don't you just tell McVay to go build a roster like Kyle?
Right.
I mean, because Kyle has final say so on personnel, not John Lynch. So that's part of it. Huh?
Well, McVay built a roster in that Super Bowl season a couple of years ago. He built a roster comparable to what you have right now in San Francisco, and
Right.
he was able to close the deal and win a championship. So that they're going to be compared on that. If you're going to compare those two coaches, that's where you could say that Kyle is better head to head or he out schemes McVay, but they're going to be graded on the scale of that Super Bowl.
Well, if that's the only contingency you're going to grade somebody on, then I mean, I'd tend to lean the head to head more, but
Mm-hmm.
he won the chip. Look, I'm not going to take nothing away from him, but if San Francisco's winning the division almost every year and smacking them upside the head, it's not like you don't get to see that matchup. But to your point, he won't be as accomplished as McVay until he wins a championship. Now, who's more accomplished? McVay. Who do I think is a better coach? I think Kyle is better. Well, tactician. And I'm gonna make an argument for McVay. I think McVay manages clock and game better than Kyle. To your point, he's gonna rarely out scheme Kyle. That's what I'm saying. But McVay has a chance to build a roster like Kyle. You can't tell. Oh, give Kyle built that roster. Kyle drafts these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So McVay build a roster then. Like
Well,
so.
he. I mean, I saw what Sean said that he bought the roster, but I mean, he just went that you put all your chips on the table, man. You go all in. You know what I mean?
You're supposed to buy. It's a professional sport. You're supposed to
Right,
buy.
right.
I
You
mean,
know,
I'm not mad at that. They did the F them picks,
yeah.
and they went all in, and they got it done.
And it hasn't really hurt them as badly as people thought it would. People thought they were going to be terrible for another few years. I mean, you saw this year, you know, they were basically a playoff team. They had the emergence of the rookie wide receiver, Puka Nacua. They still got a lot of their core intact. They're still, very much a player in the NFC.
They are. They are. They're going to be better next year too.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, the division's not going to be as easy to win as it has. I mean, we haven't. Okay, we lost that one game that we sat all our players out. We haven't lost a division game since 2021. I don't know what the question means. Do I think they're a bust?
A
Are you
bust is
asking me, are they a failure for this season?
I think the standard is different for you guys at this point. That's the side effect of having someone who makes it deep and makes deep playoff runs and doesn't close the deal, because now your expectations are higher. It's not good enough to take Patrick Mahomes into overtime. You know what I mean? Now it's all it's
Well,
going to be is y'all didn't seal the deal.
here's the thing, though. Who is beating Mahomes right now? And Andy Reid.
Well, during the season they looked very beautiful.
And look, we've seen like Kobe, Shaq. You remember like they third year, they won like 50 games. They were like a 3 or 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes these teams are bored with the regular season when they're on that level. You just got to get them to the playoffs. And since you didn't knock them out, they are a factor until they're knocked out. They are a threat. And
I can agree
so
with that.
I would say this year is a failure. I don't know. I wouldn't say they're a bust. Still a great team. I mean, you won the NFC. If we're a bust, what is every other team in the NFC?
Dallas was a bust losing in the first round. That's what I would see as a bust. You know what I mean? When you think about the level of disappointment.
Well, that's the problem with Joe Burrow too. He said, "Let my boy," and I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. Like I love him. He's now had 2 season-ending injuries in like 4 years, and so I can't even really count on him being healthy. And you're probably going to lose T. Higgins, and now you got to extend Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
This was their year. I had the Super Bowl in August as Bengals 49ers.
Yeah, Burrow. That's just it. Burrow being healthy. You know what I mean? I hope that's not the narrative of his career. I would hate that because, man, what a waste of what looked like, we could be seeing another generational talent, making it even more interesting over there in the AFC. Because, I mean, you got him, you got Josh Allen, those are the guys you see as being the challengers to Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. So now hopefully he gets healthy, man, and we see something more competitive over there. But I mean, I think they can still keep T. Higgins though. Keep.
They probably can, but what's going to happen is Joe Burrow just got paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not on the rookie scale anymore. Jamar Chase needs to get paid now. And
Right.
he's gonna. So you don't want to have all your money in a quarterback and 2 wide receivers.
Right.
They're gonna have to draft. I think they're gonna lose Boyd too. It's not if he's like if Burrow is on the level that me and Dunn think he is, he kind of has to do what Pat Mahomes did. Might have to lose Tyreek Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Might have to lose Joe Mixon or um he said he would draft Brian Thomas Jr. But they're gonna have to make swaps around that money because now it's time for Higgins to get paid. And we're gonna see what happens. But Burrow is gonna have to be healthy for one. They're gonna max out Jamar Chase. He's gonna get 100 milli plus. He's gonna be the highest paid receiver. And the funny thing is too, Justin Jefferson's trying to break the bank, and it looks like he's not happy with Minnesota as they start contract negotiations.
Yeah. CD gonna want a big contract too.
For sure. And so is Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk. Yep.
Here's the thing you're starting to see though. You can find wide receivers. Rob said T. Higgins is going to the Titans, and then Greg Dunn says to the abyss he goes. Very fair point.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you know what's scary about the Chiefs, man? I mean, on offense, this was like an off year for them. You look at their receiving core.
Look, last year they got rid of Tyreek Hill, won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then the weakest team they've ever had, they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So who is going to beat them?
Because they're going to get better next year. You think they're not going to pick up a receiver? They're going to pick up. Somebody's going to go to the Chiefs.
No, I also think the Rice kid is going to take a jump.
He did. He took a jump in the second half of the season.
So
like we watched him get better as the season progressed. Once they got what's his name, Kadarius Toney out of there.
Right. So they're going to draft somebody, to your point, and pick up a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, lucky for 49ers, we don't have to worry about them unless we get to the Super Bowl. That AFC is brutal.
Oh,
it's brutal.
It's gonna be a problem, man. I mean, Patrick, look, we might see a 3-peat. Them boys is already talking about next year. That says a lot.
He's making a good point about Kadarius Toney, but I didn't know Toney was such a head case. He might not even be in the league next year. You going on Instagram Live saying you're healthy when the team has you on the injury report?
Yeah, that was wild.
And who doesn't work with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes? I think Mahomes was just done with him. I don't want him in my huddle.
Mm-hmm.
Rice, who is a rookie, he seems a little bit more buttoned up. And also, he's playing for some. Well, I guess Kadarius Toney, you would have thought he was playing for something too, but he's not.
So, he got a ring, though.
He did. He got 2.
Yeah. Got a couple.
I think he was active yesterday. He just didn't play. So, I don't know.
But, yeah, no, they won last year with Juju. They replaced Tyreek Hill with Juju Smith-Schuster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean.
So
it's depressing, man. If you didn't beat them this year, when are you gonna beat them?
Yeah, this is the year to get them. They've been surviving with their defense all season, even up to the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes, all they needed Patrick Mahomes to do is to do his little magician work that he does in those big moments, and that's all they needed. They're gonna get better next year. Pacheco, they're gonna have more, probably another running option besides Pacheco. I know what's his name? Edwards-Helaire was injured.
I think he's gonna be gone.
But yeah, I'm gonna say, but that's why it was mostly Pacheco is what we saw.
Hmm.
So they're gonna have somebody else to complement the run game. They're only gonna get better, man. You can look at Baltimore and kind of look at them as a team that should be able to make some moves and get better, but they have some pieces on defense that might be moved.
I think Baltimore is going to be hard for them to be as good. Uh, Queen is a free agent now. He's going to be
Yep.
looking to get some bread.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was their best chance. Like I said, for AFC, it's got to be dark times because can't beat them boys.
Imagine being a Buffalo Bills fan right now.
Yeah,
They are, every time they're good, they are casualties of a dynasty. You know what I mean? They're always like they can never make it over the hump. Every time they get good enough to be a Super Bowl contender, it's always some dominant dynasty team in front of them.
here's the thing: they traded down. They're the team that traded down with Kansas City when Kansas City traded up to get Mahomes.
Yeah. Yep. So, and yeah, Baltimore's D coordinator is gone.
Hmm.
We saw with the Eagles how much of a difference that can make.
Right. Let's address Javon. The last thing he just put. He think this is San Francisco last chance.
I,
No.
I
I,
think next season might be your last chance for a little while.
I don't ever think when you have a coach like Shanahan, it just to your point, it's just might be last chance with this particular group. You got to
Mhm.
rebuild or redo the kind of like Andy Reid has done since 2019. They
Yeah.
never fall out of contention, and so we've never fallen out of contention under Shanahan. But the team that we have now looks different than 2019. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But the team y'all have right now, I feel like it's going to be mostly intact next season. Yeah.
Correct.
So y'all could, you know what I mean? Y'all could be in the same position. But I think the year after that is when it starts to get a little tricky.
So the year after that, it does start to get tricky. But through
Mhm.
the draft evaluation and through what they've done, I actually have faith in their process and how they're doing it. So just like we thought 2 years ago, that was the Rams window and it's done, right?
Right.
McVay. Now they've kind of rebuilt a core to kind of pick back up again within 2 years. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's what good coaches and organizations do. So although I do kind of agree, man, it is next year. I think next year, to your point, is the last with this group. I think if you keep core pieces, we're gonna have Bosa for the foreseeable future. We're gonna have certain guys. We're just gonna have to draft well and all that. Because to your point, if we ever pay a quarterback, we won't have the funds to like have all the talent that we have. Um, Look, I like that, and I do agree with. He said, "Think about it. Everybody else is going to get better too." And you
Yeah.
think so, but that doesn't mean we won't get better too. We got all our draft picks this year. We got money to go dive into free agency. I feel like we're going to restructure a lot of contracts.
Hmm.
Eric Armstead cannot continue to make close to 20 million. He got to come down up off that number.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think Seattle will give us trouble. I actually think Arizona and the Rams. The Rams,
Arizona, Arizona would have been a lot better this season if Kyle was
that's
playing
right,
the
was
whole.
playing the whole year.
We saw what because they've been physical all year.
Yeah, they
You know
did.
what I mean? They just didn't have no quarterback.
That's right. And
So
so I think Seattle with a new head coach, we got to see what they build. I will never pick a team. I love the Geno Smith story and
mhm.
the and how he's kind of resurrected his career. I will never worry about him beating the San Francisco 49ers. Um, but I am worried about Stafford and I'm worried about Kyler. So I don't think that the division is going to be as easy as it has been the last 2 years with Kyler coming off the ACL and even Stafford kind of being injured on and off. But now that they got this young group playing,
Mhm.
Kyron Williams, I like their running back with the Rams, and they got Nakua and Cooper Cup. They're going to be a hard out next year. Um,
The NFC North is going to be better next year.
I think so with Detroit and Green Bay.
Detroit and Green Bay. make things interesting. The NFC East is the NFC East. You know what I mean? Dallas, um, Philly. I think Philly had a down year. I think they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be better next year.
I don't
Um,
know. I'm
I
not. I'm not on that.
I need to see. I need to see what happens on the more so on the defensive side. The offensive side with Kellen Moore. I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna put up more points, but Jalen Hurts probably gonna throw more interceptions. Just let you know that. You thought his turnovers was up this season. They about to go ham next year.
I think next year Nick Sirianni gets fired.
At the end of the season or
Correct.
mid-season.
Yes.
Okay, I'm about to say that's a big statement because I mean it could happen mid-season if it goes bad, if it goes south. Jalen Hurts got some things to prove because I mean I'm a Jalen Hurts fan, you know what I mean? But he got to make sure that wasn't a flash in the pan. Was that just a one season
So
thing?
look, if you're one season, or are you more like the other 2 or 3 years you had? Right
Exactly.
now, that one season is looking like an outlier, and everything was kind of painted good for the NFC East that year. Had a weak schedule. That was y'all got 3 teams in, right, with the Giants.
Mm-hmm. Almost 4.
Because y'all played the, I can tell you because I look at the division, y'all play the AFC South. So you got Jacksonville, Tennessee, those weak teams, and I think y'all played the NFC South. So those were 8 games against Tampa, Carolina, New Orleans, and then the other teams, Jacksonville. And so the NFC East was able to eat that year, which is next year. I think y'all have the AFC North. So good luck with that Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh.
It's gonna be tough. Dallas is usually pretty good against Cincinnati, and lately Pittsburgh.
Well, let's get back to, since we're doing some Dallas right now. Hey, I want to thank everybody. Let me get my therapy session on. If you got topics, put it in there. We're going to talk about it. What did you think about DeMarcus Lawrence saying we were tired and gassed?
All right, so before let me preface what I'm about to say with this, Keith. And I know that it's wishful thinking, but I think it should be normalized for DeMarcus Lawrence to not be allowed to talk to the media.
Okay.
I'm serious, man. He's terrible at talking to the media, man.
Right.
Like he sounds like a freaking 8th grader talking to the media sometimes.
Right.
It drives me insane. What did I think about? Yeah, probably so. Yeah, probably so. But man, I think so. He was trying to cover for some people. In his defense, he was trying not to say or throw people under the bus. But in the process, he said something stupid. I did watch. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see on the Michael Parsons podcast? CeeDee Lamb came on there over the weekend.
I've heard about it, but I haven't listened to it yet.
Okay, so they addressed that, and we can get to what else CeeDee Lamb addressed too. But they addressed that on there, and I mean, nobody, and others have addressed it too. Nobody agrees with him. You know what I mean? Nobody can really give a definitive answer of what happened. But yeah, man, I think D-Law every night, even when things are going good, he says something dumb. You know what I mean? Remember they kept replaying him saying we punch him in the mouth, then we punch him again, and we punch him again. We're like, bro, shut up.
Right.
But yeah, D-Law is not he's not a media guy. That's all I can say, man. But that you definitely need to watch that Michael Parsons and CeeDee Lamb interview. CeeDee Lamb finally spoke out. That was his first time speaking out since everything went down with his mom calling out Dak, and all of that. And he basically went on there and he said, man, he didn't even know he woke up to it. Like he was sleeping. He woke up to all the the phone calls and the tweets. And he's like, man, I love Dak. Me and Dak are good. Dak know what it is. I want to be a Cowboy for life. I want to, he's trying to get his extension and everything. But he said he made some interesting comments about why he was mad during that game in the first quarter. he said that it was his targets. You know, he said he was upset about his targets, but he also pointed out that it wasn't Dak's fault and he wasn't blaming Dak. But he didn't. If he ain't blaming Dak for it, then that's clearly a shot at Mike McCarthy.
So do you know the biggest mistake that I think Dallas made? And this is from the outside looking in. Y'all should have fired Mike McCarthy.
A lot of us felt that way.
And just, I'm going to be honest, just as a 49er fan, it's laughing jokes a lot with me. I'm trolling.
Mhm.
I don't ever go into a game with Dallas feeling like we're going to get out schemed.
I mean,
I always am comfortable with Shanahan out scheming Dallas.
who are you? Who do you go into a game uncomfortable against?
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Jim Schwartz. So Spags, I guess Spags. We're going against, if we're talking offense.
Looking at the defense, yeah, the defense.
Jim Schwartz for Cleveland. Now we're going to see, and I think that's the reason they hired him in Seattle. That defensive coordinator did a lot of good things with Baltimore. Don't quite feel like scheme yet because we only played them once. But those two in particular, off the top of my head, Jim Schwartz, that was with Cleveland this year, and Spags.
To go back to what you originally said about Mike McCarthy, I think the reasoning behind it is, so two things. One, you can point out the fact that, you got the 3-12 win seasons, the back-to-back 12-win seasons. And then you could see that when he became a play caller, you definitely saw an improvement in that. Take the playoff game away, a couple of, of slides. Dak was finished number 2 in the MVP race. People forget that. You know what I mean? He led.
You know my view on that. I thought it was a fugazi. The reason I say fugazi is even like, he took the touchdown lead over Purdy the last game, right? Because I think he had 4 touchdowns against the Commanders, but we didn't play nobody. We set all our starters, and I just felt like if you go back and look at Dak's games, most of the good ones are against subpar opponents.
You could say that. You could say that. But he is, you can't take away, his improvement in the way he played, especially in comparison to last season.
The only thing that I would say McCarthy didn't do, he put the game. I don't think Dak is the type of player you can put the game in his hands. He's more like a Purdy. You need to have things around him like a running game, a good running back.
And that's always been the case with him. His best years have been when he had Zeke Elliott's best years. You know what I mean? When they had that balanced attack. You remember when Ezekiel Elliott got suspended and they tried to do that wide receiver by committee thing.
Yeah.
And I remember they didn't get good until Amari Cooper. We didn't get good till Amari Cooper.
Right.
They picked up Amari Cooper and everything turned around. So don't get it twisted. Dak ain't a quarterback who you can put it on his back when he ain't got no weapons.
Yeah, like Mahomes.
Right. He's not that. He's not that. Dak doesn't belong in that tier. Is he a quarterback if you put the right pieces around him that could probably win you a championship? Absolutely. I think that.
No, he's a San Fran fan. He's just saying our could be. I think he's rated. It depends on how you have him rated.
You think he thinks Brock Purdy is overrated?
Yeah. How do you have him rated?
I feel like people more or less try to, downplay him than to overrate him. You know what I mean? All the game manager stuff, the game managing narrative. I will say, you got to think,
He says 15 to 20 range, then you don't have to range. He thinks that Purdy's 15 to 20. I have him around 10 to 12. I would not take Dak. I'm going to tell you why I wouldn't take Dak. What is the one thing we said about Purdy about the moment? Has any moment seemed too big for him?
Yeah, he seems pretty composed given that
he's ever seen. Can you say the same thing about Dak?
It's tricky, man.
It's tricky, but
It's almost like you. Dak's situations are almost
that's an intangible quarterback thing, though. You understand?
right,
Like
right.
it's not anything to do with your arm strength and all. Because I do agree that Dak is a more physically talented quarterback than Brock Purdy. But from the small sample size we've seen, I'm not going to trade in those physical traits for Purdy's was seemingly to be like able to overcome big moments, deficits. What he did his playoff run, um, he played big in big moments. That is quarterback, right?
Right.
He just couldn't play bigger than Mahomes. There's no slide on that. But he played bigger than Goff. He played better than Jordan Love. And I bet there are people that have those guys rated above him. So no. Would I rather go with maybe some other quarterback? I don't know. I would not take Dak just because I haven't seen him yet. I won't say he doesn't have it in him. I have not seen him yet overcome. And I've seen him be the weakness. I'm going to be honest. Last year's playoff game, Dallas against San Francisco, I thought Dallas outplayed San Francisco.
Yeah, the problem was on offense. We weren't Dallas wasn't putting any points up. You know, the defense came to play.
Well, he said defense won to Detroit. How many points did Detroit score? They scored 31 points. The defense was not defensive. Gave up 24 in the first half.
No, y'all had a horrible defensive performance against Detroit. That
was terrible.
The reason Detroit lost that game because for some reason, I guess scoring what they scored 24 points in the first half, something like that. Yeah. I guess that wasn't enough for them to realize that the running game was working, and they decided not to do it in the second half. They had nearly 30 rushing touches from the running backs in the first half and only had 7 in the second half. That's how Detroit lost that game.
Right.
And a few blunders as far as like drop passes and a costly turnover that really turned the game on its heel, on its head.
I would say coaching too.
Coaching, yeah. But Dan Campbell having horrible situational. He's a horrible situational coach. I don't care about none of that. You know, him being aggressive and all of that. I mean, that's cool. That's the personality. His stubbornness is basically his bad situational awareness as a coach. You saw it in that Dallas game. They could have still won that game, man. Everybody kept talking about the whole, you know, who didn't report or the referees messed it up. Man, they had 2 more chances to kick that doggone extra point. They would have won that game. Dallas was set up to lose that game. And because of his stubbornness and lack of situational awareness, you know, they lost. It's the same reason they lost that lead to San Francisco.
Right. I mean, he did a lot to lose both those games. But no, I would take a composed quarterback over a more talented quarterback any day of the week. And so
you said you would take a more composed or more talented?
More composed.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think you look at when you compare Dak and Brock Purdy, you could say Dak is a more talented quarterback, but the moments we talked earlier with Patrick Mahomes and the moments. Right. Patrick Mahomes is at his best when he's afforded those moments.
Right.
You know what I mean? When Dak gets in those moments, he hasn't necessarily been that. He hasn't stepped up. It's always something happens, you know. So I don't know. It's almost like the Romo effect, but I would argue that Romo is better than Dak.
I don't think there's an argument. I think Romo was better than Dak.
Romo's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Romo's problem was, for one, he couldn't stay healthy. And then, you know, 2, he was a gunslinger. So, you know, a lot of times he would throw interceptions, you know, in pivotal moments, but he led the league in game-winning drives.
Right.
For a lot of seasons during his career.
Purdy didn't show moments yesterday, and it showed. I thought he was fine. I don't think he did. No, did he show up like Mahomes? No. I think that he was fine though. If we have this thing in our head where we think Purdy is going to outplay Mahomes, that needs to go away. I think 15-20 is where I had Brock at the beginning of the season. If he can't change your mind by taking you to the Super Bowl, in the NFC Championship in his first 2 years, and you think he's. I think he is better than half the league. So, like I said, I think I have him 10 to 12. Now, next year he has to do it again. I think the jury's still out on a second-year quarterback. So I treat him like I treat most second-year quarterbacks. He's not Mahomes to win the Super Bowl your second year, MVP and all that. No, but I would like to see where he goes. I wouldn't just immediately say, you know, that
I,
he's. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think he wasn't the reason that y'all lost.
No,
You know
he
what I
also
mean?
wasn't the reason we would have won. So
Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, you got out of him. It's almost like I feel like you almost have to grade him on a different scale.
yeah, right,
You know what I mean? It's like, dude, he's a second year last pick of the draft, and he just took his team to the Super Bowl. You know, yeah, he got a lot of talent around him. Yeah, he's probably benefits. I mean, no, he does benefit from that talent.
correct,
Won't lie. You can't just put him on the Chicago Bears and we won't see the same Brock Purdy. You
right.
know what I mean? But I mean, he did what he needed to do. You know, as it pertains to what you would expect. Like I said, my only thing with him was it was just young QB or lack of experience type situations. Like, but you pointed out that might have been a Kyle Shanahan thing as far as him not adjusting his protection. You know what I mean, or changing his protection up in those situations. But that's that. I mean, that's a huge knock on him, and he's going to grow from that. I think he can get over that. I think it's just a matter of what does he look like without the same talent around him. I think that's what everybody pretty much kind of holds over his head. If Patrick Mahomes played for the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy had Patrick Mahomes roster, where Brock Purdy had been able to win that Super Bowl? The answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
And
So if we had Pat Mahomes, we'd be one of the greatest teams of all time.
it would be entirely unfair. I mean,
Um,
y'all, as much money as he made, y'all damn sure wouldn't have the roster y'all have right now.
well, see, think about it though. We just paid Debo last year. We're just gonna have to. So when people say they won't be as no, we won't have the same players. Like we have Ayuk on a rookie contract. Do I trust him to find another one? I do. I'm not saying like he would be just as good, but I'm saying that's how you retool a team. That's why Kansas City has such a phenomenal young defense, youngest defense in the league. They drafted. They didn't say. People look at it through a lens. He'll still be in the Shanahan system, and he's always going to have a certain level of talent. To your point, maybe not this high like now, but I don't ever think he's going to be out there looking like Chicago Bears because I don't think we'll ever, while Shanahan is there, have a team that devoid of talent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, you speak for yourself. I didn't kill Cap. I enjoy Cap as a QB. Um, you say we. I feel like that's the media that kills Lamar, Josh Allen, Burrow, Herbert. I just don't. I'm not into killing second year quarterbacks. If that's your thing, you think the jury's out, and this is as good as he's going to be, then that's a thing for you. I just feel like you give the guy 2, 3, 4 years, and then if he don't work out, you move on. Or if he does work out, you pay him. So I would not get rid of a second year quarterback that took us to the Super Bowl. He couldn't beat Mahomes, but guess what? Lamar, Josh, Tua, none of them beat Mahomes either. So
And he took him to overtime. You know
he
what I
did.
mean?
He took him to overcome. I think Green Bay has the youngest offense. I think they talk about their skill positions, but I do know Green Bay is young too.
Green Bay is the youngest team
Right.
overall, like by average age. But I don't know, man. I think
49er fan, we gave up on Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance, you can speak on him more now that he's with your team. I think Trey Lance is you think getting drafted here was the perfect situation? I think it was the worst situation for Trey Lance. You want me to tell you why?
because he got injured.
Well, not only did he get injured, you're getting drafted to a team that's ready to win now. We
Mm-hmm.
can't wait for you to learn. So, like CJ Stroud, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's getting drafted on a team where this year that looks like growth. I'd say if you talk to a Houston person, they would say that was a successful season. D'Amico, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. We go to the playoffs, we win the division. Trey Lance needed a situation where he could grow,
Yeah.
not expect to produce right away. So Brock is able to be produce at a high level as a young quarterback, which we could see Trey is just more green. He didn't get to play a lot of college. In matter of fact, his third year, that was a COVID year. And so that's a reach. You draft three. What we should be doing is killing Shanahan more for you know, yeah, but we were ready to move off Jimmy G. Jimmy G, you talk about not being it. Jimmy G was worse than Brock Purdy. Jimmy G never made Pro Bowls or anything, and he's always hurt. So it's not like Jordan Love because Jordan Love got to sit behind Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Didn't y'all release Jimmy G and then brought him back as a backup? Is that what
Yeah,
happened?
that's what happened, and had him starting for Trey.
Yeah.
I mean, he had Trey starting, then Trey got hurt, and Jimmy came
And
in,
then Jimmy right back in the
and
driver's
then
seat.
Jimmy got hurt. You know, and so um, I like Justin Fields. I was with him before the draft. I'm glad we didn't draft Justin Fields. He reads the way he reads defenses is atrocious. He's a great athlete though,
Mm-hmm.
like, but he can't throw. I mean, he can. He has a good arm, but he can't read defenses. I see why Shanahan and them, because they need somebody that can get the ball out quick.
Yeah, I saw some tape on him, man. He does like sometimes he'll have somebody open in the flat and then he'll scramble unnecessarily to you know what I mean to the
Yeah,
opposite side.
Fields would absolutely frustrate the shit out of Kyle.
Yeah.
Like, because if you miss open people, like that's this offense is designed to process and get it out within 2 or 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Which Purdy does at a high level. So the jury's still out, and that goes back to the point of um, are we looking at physical talent or what it actually takes to play the quarterback position, right? So, I mean, Brock was the named starter for the Pro Bowl for the NFC. You can't please some fans. You know what I'm saying? Do I think he's in probably the best situation that most team? If you ask most quarterbacks who would you want to go play for, they probably would say San Francisco. But that also it doesn't mean. I mean, you play where you're drafted. Um, so I think Fields is talented. I've been following him. He's from right here, Kennesaw. He went to Kennesaw Mountain, and I was really high on him. But even like at Ohio State, they was saying he missed open receivers and all that. That's why he would run the ball so much. But
He hasn't had to the points being made in the chat. He hasn't had a lot of consistency though since he's been in the league.
I
For one, he went to quarterback purgatory in Chicago because we know they've never ever had
a real
a,
quarterback.
a real quarterback ever. And then you don't have any kind of continuity on top of that when you're in that learning phase, trying to learn the NFL game, the NFL speed, and you just every year after year, you got a different voice in your ear. That could be problematic, and that could definitely hinder your growth, as a quarterback. I'm to Greg's point. I do think he could really benefit from a quality offensive coordinator, somebody who can really work with him and hone in on his strengths. If he had like one of those sound minds, I think if he was with like Sean McVay, somebody like that, you know what I mean? You saw what Sean McVay did for Baker Mayfield in such a short time.
Mm-hmm.
You got somebody like that in your ear that can really help you hone in your skills. I think that would be beneficial for him.
I agree.
But I need to I got to produce some commercials tonight, Keith. So
We got an hour and a half. We were just gonna do a short
you
time.
can do a short one, man. You know how it goes, man. So hey man, we're gonna do some revamping. I know we gotta shift gears a little bit now that the season's over, man. So I'm looking forward to see what we got in store for the people out there.
Bang bang, Sean.
Hey, that's for you, Keith. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, therapy session. I'm not trolling Keith today. I've been polite for the most part, man. I want my guy, man. That's my brother right there. I want him to make sure he's sound mentally and emotionally. You know what I mean? So, good season, Keith. Better luck next year.
Hey, good season. Working with you too, man. We got to pick it up and get some more stuff done.
We do,
This
man.
has been fun, man.
More work to do, baby. All right, people. Peace.